Armory disc golfers, welcome back to another video. I'm not talking about the worst disc in Innova's lineup. That video has been done a lot. I'm talking about the worst slot that they have overall. Innova is the biggest disc golf manufacturer and they have the most number of approved molds. But for some reason, this slot, they just haven't seemed to really nail down. So today, we're gonna look at the disc that should be in that slot and see how bad it really is and why nobody throws it. We are back out at First Baptist College Station. We're doing another one disc challenge here. The first time we did this, we shot a 6-down with the min disc taco. So we're gonna try to beat that today with this. And I have never thrown this disc before, which is not normal for me to do before review rounds. So we're gonna learn this together. 185 feet straight in front of us. Yeah, that's a good start. The slot that we're gonna be looking at today is Innova's understable mid-range slot. And the disc that I'm throwing, you may have never even heard of, which again, is pretty telling and kind of why we're here. This disc has flight numbers of 5.4, -2.1. It seemed like it was flying pretty straight at 190 feet. We're gonna see how it fares at 320. I'm gonna throw it pretty firm at this left group of trees and see how much it pans over. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really seeing -2 out of this guy, which is the Innova Discs Panther. It's got a couple weird things going on with this disc, which we're obviously going to talk about right after I nail this 40-footer. I forgot that in the last challenge, I putted with my actual putter, so I'm gonna stay consistent with that for high score purposes. Dadgummit! Thought that was good. So one of the weird things that's going on with this disc is, I've shown you the profile. It is very domey, and that's pretty consistent for the Panther. It's also got a rim profile that looks like it's built more like a fairway driver, which again is interesting. And a -2 stability on a 5-speed disc typically means 5 or even 6 glide. Innova has given this one 4. Fugazi flight numbers, I understand.
Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist.
But it's interesting either way. This hole is a shorty, just need to put a little hyzer out there and swing it in right after I punch in U-disc and see how far it is. 205. Just wanted to leave that one nose up and preferably not in a tree. So now we'll make a long putt instead. To its credit, the Panther does feel very controllable in the 3 throws that I've thrown with it thus far. And I felt like I could put it out on a wide hyzer there, nose up, and let it swing in, which I'm sure we'll get to play around with in upcoming shots. I should have not been talking so I could actually focus on making that putt. Typically, people who throw Innova and want an understable mid get told something like,
just grab a rock and beat it up.
Or
throw a Mako 3 and just throw it with a little bit more anhyzer.
But neither one of those is really the same as having an actual understable mid, like the MVP Detour. And I think the MVP Detour and the Westside Tersus, and even something like the Buzz SS, has inspired Innova to kind of push the Panther again, which we'll get into here in just a second. I'm gonna throw the Detour against the Panther and a new disc that I think the Panther is very similar to. Try to put that on a little bit of anhyzer. It's got a very predictable flight. Oh, that went, from my angle, that went just behind the basket, and I'm pretty sure I'm like 40 feet long, but that looked like a great run. Now, a Detour, I'm gonna throw a little flatter because I think it's actually a little more understable. Weird footing, yeah. Definitely seeing more of an actual -2 turn out of the Detour. I realized as I was walking down the fairway that I didn't actually grab the other disc that I alluded to that I think is similar in flight numbers to these. So I'll be sure to get that in an upcoming hole here pretty quick. Man, let's go. It's feeling good. It's the first one to finally drop though. I mean, seriously, I know I've shown this a couple times, but this dome is dummy thick. I actually think that Innova took the Panther out of production for a few years because they were so unpopular. I have only been an Innova retailer for like 6 months. Thank y'all so much for your support, by the way. So I don't have like actual hard statistics on that. I do know that these were extremely rare to find out in the wild, if you will, for a long time, and Innova is just recently starting to push them again. If that was higher, I would be really excited about that shot. As it is, dumb boring birdie. And from what I've read, I think that they actually changed the mold of the Panther to be more of this sharper feel, less rounded rim, and a little more domey on top. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was just a natural consequence of the tooling changing or being tweaked over time or what. But I do think this new run of Panthers is probably different than your dad's or your grandpa's Panthers. I do want to beat that 6 under mark, so I need to make sure that I'm still checking in on these distances because I'm not familiar with this course. 273, and speaking of your dad and grandpa, I think that these are more comfortable if you have a more traditional spinny fan style sort of throw, whereas I like to power grip everything. I'm a degenerate like that. But when spun, these do like to have a nice straight pushing flight to them. I like that line a lot. I wanted it to come out like 10 feet farther left. And now I want to compare it again to the Detour and this disc, which you've heard me talk about before, but I want to highlight again. Yeah, the Detour, I think, is much more of a true put it on hyzer, let it flip up straight and push like a -2-1. This might be a -1-1, but I think the profile is fairly similar, so I want to throw it. And that is the Meridian Discs Straight, which has just recently come out. I think the plastic is incredible, and it has a very, very neutral flight, whereas the Panther seems to have a little bit of stability, and the Detour, like I said, is a little bit understable. It was important to me that I got this angle of this putt so that you can see how impossible it is, what I'm dealing with here. It was a decent bid. We'll take that. All right, a par there, and these need to go back into the side pocket where they belong. And I need to birdie out now to get to that 6 under mark. This one is 230 feet dead straight, so I'm going to try to hit this one pretty flat, keep it under a low ceiling, which might be tricky, and get ourselves a look. I'm thankful for the stability of this disc here, because if that was actually a -2 turn, I think it would have panned over and cut rolled and not been great. As it stands, it's like we have a circle edge look. Hello, dream is still alive. This isn't Circle's Edge at all. This is a tiny tripod. I got the legs shut down, but it's only like a 15 footer. So it turns out the nice push and stability from the Panther, not so bad after all. And the dream for 6 under is still alive, but I've got some bad news. As thrilled as I am with the dream of -6 still being alive, I can see now why the Panther is not in the same sort of discussion as things like the Buzz SS or the Tursus or the Discraft Comet or things like that, because I don't think this disc is actually understable, and I don't get why Innova can't seem to make an understable mid-range that isn't the actual Rollo. Like something that's just a little hyzer flip, push to flat, neutral and gentle. I mean, this is fairly neutral, but it's not -2. It's not something like a Tursus or a Comet. So that actually kind of excites me, but I'll stop chatting and throw this 150-foot pitch up. I really want to ace this one. That would be so sick. Oh, that was such a good run. Short hole, but a good run nonetheless. Because the Panther isn't a -2 mid-range like those other ones are, I'm actually excited about the prospect of Innova making one that is truly in this slot, because like I've mentioned earlier, dummy thick dome on this one, kind of a strange profile. Some people are really gonna like it, but I'm excited about like a new era, if you will, of understable mid-range that Innova can put out, because they've been putting out some really cool stuff lately. Understable mid-range would be a sweet addition to the lineup. For some reason, I feel like it always comes down to hole 9, which by the way is in a different tee position than the last time we did this one disc challenge, but I'm trying to play the legitimate tees, so we're gonna go from here. This is a 235-foot shot. I trust the Panther's stability, so I'm just gonna throw a nice big hyzer out to the right and trust for it to swing back in. I think that's good. Push up a little bit. Yeah, I think we got a lot of 15-footer for that 6 under. Well, the theme continues with Nick horribly misjudging how far he is from the basket, but I guess that makes things interesting, because now I have to make a 25-30 footer, and I'm nervous enough to bring out the old chalk bag to do so. Break in. Dadgummit, why? Why can I not birdie this hole? It's all the Panther's fault, obviously. So the Panther will sit at 5 under, fall to number 2 on our leaderboards. Tell me if you like the one disc challenges out here. I think I enjoy doing it because this is a pretty good track for mid-rangey type discs and exhibitions and whatnot. I'm gonna throw this one more time next to the Detour, give you a little comparison of that, because I've really been enjoying the Detour and I wanna see them on more of a full flight. This basket is right about 300 feet away. I'm gonna give the Panther the officially unofficial Armory disc flight numbers of 5.4, -1.2 instead of -2.1. I do agree with Innova that it only has a 4 glide instead of a 5, which again, I think is strange given its profile and everything, but it is what it is. Get through the trees, yes. I will say it's a pretty flight until it got knocked down by the trees. I'm gonna try to correct on that and put the Detour out farther left to start. Break over and glide. Such a pretty flight. Sakes alive. This isn't a Detour video, we gotta cut. And speaking of cutting, the lawn crews out here trying to do their job, so I'm gonna get out of their hair, wrap this up. Let me know what understable mid you are throwing, if you've ever tried a Panther before, what you think of that. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed the comment, leave a like down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.